Hello, my name is Maria Yaksich, and I'm here representing Comunidad STL, a nonpartisan organization that aims to address issues relevant to the Hispanic and Latinx community. Today, I have the pleasure to present to you two different topics, DACA and your voting options for the November 3rd election. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. First of all, let's talk about DACA. In order to talk about DACA, we need to go back to 2001 when the DREAM Act was in place. And the DREAM Act stands for the Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors. And this population were properly called the Dreamers. Now, we're talking about over 800,000 dreamers. And what it entailed, this act, was to protect the young immigrants who are vulnerable to deportation. And coming to today's age, we are now dealing with DACA, which is the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Now, between 2001 and now, there's been at least 10 different acts that have been tried to pass through Congress without any success. Hopefully, after these elections, this population will be able to find a pathway to legal status. And for them to achieve their dreams. What is it that they really want? This group of individuals have already completed their elementary and high school education, and a large number of them are trying to get a university degree or go to a trade school. But due to their undocumented status, they aren't able to do them. There's numerous barriers, and the most important one of them all being cost. Many of the universities require for a DACA student to pay out-of-state tuition, or in some cases, like in Missouri, 3 times the cost of what a regular resident would be able to be required to pay. As you can see, this is definitely a barrier, and it's a way to, in my opinion, to oppress that population so they cannot achieve their goals and their dreams. Now, you would agree with me that education is essential for the growth of society, growth of a country, and for that matter, the growth of the world. In the words of Nelson Mandela, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And isn't that what we want? To make our world a better place where people are better educated, they're better able to find different solutions to problems and help us make a better world. So hopefully after these elections, this group of people will be able to find a pathway to legal status. So in turn, we can all benefit from their abilities and their achievements. That's DACA. Kind of condensed. Now let's talk about our second topic, which is your voting options for November the 3rd election. Interesting enough, this year, due to the COVID, we have 3 different ways in which a U.S. citizen in Missouri can vote. The first one, you all know. That one is in person, where you actually go to your ballot place and you vote in person on November the 3rd. You can do this between 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. You do have to show an ID, and those the ID that you need to show is a driver's license, a state ID, a passport, and an identification card that was issued by a university, a trade school, or you can use a receipt of a utility that has your address, which you use to register, and your name. Different ways that you can identify yourself at the time of voting. And this is again in person on November the 3rd. If and when you arrive to your voting location before 7 o'clock and there's a line, you still have the right to vote after they have closed the voting place, if and when you were there by 7 o'clock, regardless of how long it takes. That's the first way of voting. Second way of voting is by absentee voting. Now, this is where the confusion comes, because as an absentee voter, you have two choices within absentee voting. One of them is in person, and the other one is by mail. Confusing. Absentee refers to the fact that you are going to be absent from the day of the actual election, November the 3rd. So when you vote in person by absentee vote, you first of all have to go to, you can go to the local election authority and request your Missouri absentee ballot. You would have to meet one of these criterias, which involves a potential for immune compromise, that you have some kind of liver disease, diabetes, chronic lung disease, or some issues with your heart. Also that you are employed by election authority, or because of your religious belief, and or because you're going to be absent on election day. So this is the request to absentee ballot. You can go in person, as I said, to the election authority office, request it, fill this out, get your ballot, and fill it out. They will notarize the envelope, and you're done in person. You have this opportunity all the way to November the 2nd. It's already taking place. You can do this in person. Now, where would you go? Again, your local election authority. In St. Louis, there's two locations, one in the county and one in the city. The one in the county is at in St. Anne, and I believe the address is, yes, here it is, 725 Northwest Plaza Drive. And if you're in the city, you would go to 300 North Tucker Boulevard and go during working hours. The other way as an absentee voter is when you request through the online. You can request it by printing the this ballot and mailing it. You can also request it in person, take it home, right? Fill it out. Important thing is that you fill it out and you take it back to the office, to the local election authority office, or you mail it. The key point here to remember is that when you're returning it, it has to be notarized. Once you have completed your ballot, the envelope has to be notarized. So this is a required with absentee ballots. Must be notarized. Unless, this is a confusion, unless you happen to be over 65, you are sick, you live in a retirement facility. So there's exceptions to the rule. My recommendation is just get it notarized. That way there is no confusion as to the validity of your vote. With all the rhetoric that we have been hearing about mail-in voting, I do recommend that you get it notarized. Where can you get it notarized? Numerous places. You can go to a library. Many of the libraries are offering notary services. The UPS offices, some of them offer notary services. Some of the real estate companies will also offer it. All you need to do is just call. Furthermore, if you go to the Missouri website, the state Missouri website for voting, there is a list of people that are volunteers willing to notarize ballots. So many options. The last way that you can vote is by mail-in voting. And in order to do that, again, you have to request the form. And you go to the website and you can either print it out, mail-in ballot, or you can request it online. You can print the ballot and this request, fax it in. The key point to remember is that this is a mail-in ballot, so they'll mail your ballot to your home and you have to mail it back. Now, this past weekend, there was some talk that this might be changed. Friday was changed, but then Saturday they changed it. So in order to avoid any more confusion, just go ahead and mail it if you are doing a mail-in ballot. Key thing to remember is that it has to be notarized. Please, please, please just get it notarized so validity of your vote is there. Now, when you look at voting this year, because of all the confusion and all the different ways that, in my opinion, people are trying to obstruct the ability for people to vote, I recommend that you vote in person. So there is no questions as to when it gets there, no problems with mail, no problems of not being counted. If you get there in person, either on November the 3rd, or you go to the local election authority and vote in person, you know that the ballot is already where it needs to be. So that's my recommendation for this year's November 3rd election. Vote in person if at all possible. Now, of course, some of you have issues with their health and are unable. But if you are able, I would recommend that you definitely just vote in person due to all the confusion and what appears to be issues that are coming about. Now, another recommendation that I have for you is find out what exactly you're voting for. Be an informed voter. Don't just go to one site. Investigate, Google it, get a couple of sources as to the issues that are going to be affecting you for the next 4 years. Your vote is super important. It counts, it matters. It's going to affect you directly. So let's be informed. Thank you so much for your time. I almost forgot something. Remember, if you're doing absentee voting or mail-in voting, you have to request your form before October the 21st. Otherwise, you're not going to have enough time to turn it back in and for them to receive it at the right time and the right place. Act before October the 21st. Thank you again. Maria Yaxich, para servirles.